If you want to watch me bring a mid-century dresser back to life and make it into something that fits in a modern home, you're going to want to watch this. This is a gorgeous dresser made by Stanley. It's from 1950. It's hard to see a little bit through that glass, but that wood grain is amazing. It's just the coloring is off, but wow, look at that hardware. You just can't find that today. There's a bunch of dents and dings and scrapes and stains in the drawers, and we're going to fix all of that. But I'm going to strip this down, and I'm going to do it several different ways because, I start sanding, and then I try scraping, and then I try using acetone or lacquer thinner, and it's just going to be an experiment to find out which way works the best in order to bring this back to life. So this 1950s dresser is going to become something of a modern beauty. You're going to want to follow along. I'm Shireen with Olive Street Designs, and I'm showing the process of furniture refinishing so you can learn too. Be sure to subscribe and follow for more. All right, first thing I need to do is get the glass off so I can work on this. Now I have a place designated where I'm taking this to. I'm setting it on top of another dresser. I have a nice fuzzy soft blanket on, so I'd be sure to save that. It came with that glass, and if you've ever gone to cut a piece of custom glass like that, it costs about $150 to $200. So I love having glass on pieces. I've done it for items that I have in my own home, my dining table, some nightstands. I just love being able to save it. But these little plastic risers that go underneath the glass over the course of the last 60 years have just sort of melted. So they were really causing some issue. But the first thing I wanted to do is just see what I'm working with here. I got my carbide scraper out, and I just wanted to remove a little bit of the finish. One, to see how thick is this varnish on the top, this top coat. And then I kept feeling this with my fingernails because it really felt like laminate. So I was like, let me scrape some of this off and see if it'll come off and if it's really wood. So it really is wood, but I realized my carbide scraper is dull. So this is how my blade actually has blades on both sides. You just flip it over, put it right back in, tighten the screw down, and now I have a brand new blade on the other side. I haven't used this side yet. So carbide scraping is where I'm starting for the top. These, flat surfaces on the top, I find strip the best with a carbide scraper. Now, you got to be careful with a carbide scraper because you can completely destroy this. I am not laying into this thing. It is, this is a pretty tough finish, but you've got to put even pressure on it. You've got to pull it straight back. Otherwise, you could just gouge your top and ruin this beautiful wood. So I'm kind of putting moderate pressure in here and just taking my time. I've got this sped up, obviously, and it looks like I'm just going to town, but I'm being careful here. But you see that it just comes off in strips. And this finish on here, sometimes when I'm scraping, they just crystallize and just come off like that, but this is coming off pretty well. So I scraped a ton of it. I don't usually scrape the edges because I don't want to destroy those or blow through veneer on the edges, which is typically where that happens. And then I went in with 120 grit, and now I'm going to sand. So this is what real-time sanding looks like. Pretty boring. It takes a long time, and I take extra care around the edges. So as I'm doing the edges, I'm kind of, I call it like feathering, where I'm just doing little bits at a time, and I sand it a little, and then I was able to get a little bit more with my carbide scraper. So just getting all that done, and you'll see when I get down to this end too. And when you see those swirls like that, you've got to stop. My sandpaper developed a little chunk on there, and that will make marks, and they're hard to get rid of. So just take the time to stop. If you can scrape them off, great, or change your sandpaper. So there's another one of those little melted plastic risers for the glass. Just gonna get that off of there because that is, I think, the culprit of what gunked up my sandpaper. So that just came right off. But clean it up. So once I had that clean, I was like, well, let me see if I can go a little bit further and get a bit more of that finish off of there. So it's kind of a team effort here with a little sanding, a little scraping. But again, I'm always moving. I just keep checking to see if I'm getting through the finish because I don't want to spend too much time on the edge. You'll blow right through the veneer. This has a pretty thick veneer on it, but still always taking care. There it is. How beautiful is that? So I've just got a barely damp cloth. I just want to get all the dust off of there. But you'll see how that color just changes so quickly when it barely gets wet. If I were to just throw top coat on this, it would just be bright orange. And that's not the look I'm going for. Some people like that, but to me that looks dated. So anyway, I'm going to start pulling all the drawers out. This is my first time taking these drawers out, so I'm really going to inspect everything. Taking my time to make sure everything into the drawers is in good working order, and also the drawer guides. These are the little carriage guides, so sometimes those do get bent, but same process here. Now there's multiple things going on these drawers. So the center part has the same veneer as the sides and the top, and then the sides here have something completely different wood, different grain. It's like an inlay, but it's actually sitting underneath that one square. So I'm using my surf prep on that, just on that area, because I don't want to spend too much time on the top, because again, I could damage that veneer. And I'm making some progress, but I'm like, maybe lacquer thinner would work better here. So I just put it on a soft rag, and lacquer thinner, is a similar product to acetone where it's going to just melt away certain products. So, there are some finishes that this won't even touch, but this one, it was working very well with. So it just pretty much melted this. But what happens is it will evaporate so quickly that if you don't wipe it back off fast enough, it sets up again. So you may have melted it and moved it around a little, and then it gets hard again. So this is going to require, and that's why I have it on a rag. So I'm pretty much doing the wipe it on, melt it away, wipe it off all with the same rag. You can see that area just kind of coming to life. It is just melting it off. So I decided I'm just going to do the whole drawer that way, see if it works. Well, then it is working, but not as well as I would hope in these areas. You can see that blonde finish coming off and exposing the actual wood grain underneath. But a little more work. I just feel like this is going to be a lot less damaging to the wood than all the sanding. I still am going to have to sand because there's still stain there, but that took that off. The top one is stripped, the middle one is sanded already. And then I thought, well, let me try it with a scrub brush, because the other cloth I think was a little too soft. So hey, I'm willing to try all kinds of things, because you just never know which one of these things you're going to go, that was it. That was the one. I didn't love the scrub brush because I felt like it was splattering lacquer thinner everywhere, and I don't want to do that. I mean, it's bad enough I'm working with all these chemicals, but I didn't want to be splattering it. So I went back to using a rag, and I'm just getting the top of the drawer. This is kind of a trial and error. I like experimenting with things, and I could have just sanded this whole thing, but I'm always looking for faster, more efficient, better outcome. What's going to work the best? So again, I've got my rags pretty moistened with the lacquer thinner, and then I'm using the paper towel to try to wipe the finish away once it's melted. I don't know how else to describe it, but it does just kind of turn it to liquid goop. It's a little sticky, so I guess if you could imagine varnish becoming liquid again, how it would be kind of tacky. And you wipe it away, but you can see the top of that drawer now. Okay, now that the varnish is all off, it's time to sand because I still have to remove the stain. And I have I think there's 180 grit on here. Just going to, it's coming off so quickly. I mean, I'm barely having to do it. And then I grabbed my contour sander, the little blocks, and I put some sandpaper on there just to get those other areas. And wow, that lacquer thinner really did work. I'm feeling like that's my miracle product for this project. I'm definitely gonna probably try that out when I'm stripping things on most things just to see if it's the right finish for the lacquer thinner. But this went really well. But you'll see again, if I were to just top coat it, what it would look like. So I'm doing the sides, the top of the drawer, just cleaning everything up because it kind of had stain on it. Underneath, I just want everything sanded, nice and cleaned up. When I do a natural look, I don't want someone to open the drawer and see the manufacturer's stain splattered all over the side of the drawers. I don't think that's cute. Okay, same process on the cabinet. Just getting that all cleaned up. Time to work with these side drawers. So the hardware is so cool. I love this hardware. It comes out, it's 3 pieces. Well, it's the screw, the knob, and then that cup that goes into the drawer. Awesome. If you see in my hand now, I have discovered the combination. The combination is a scrubber in the lacquer thinner and then wipe it off. I have this sped up only a tiny bit. It is happening so fast, and you'll see that it does evaporate quickly. Once I wipe it, boom, it evaporates. So here we go. This is with the scrubber. And that blonde finish is just gonna melt away, and I can scrub it right off. And then I wipe it and it's gone. When I discovered that this was gonna work, I can't even tell you, I almost got up and did a happy dance because I'm like, oh my goodness. This is the way I am forever now going to do this. Couldn't believe it. When you get to the, oh my goodness, this is the holy grail of strippers for this dresser. Wow, so exciting. Here it is in real time. That's about how fast I was actually going. And again, it's just taking it right off. You can see the difference between the very top where it's kind of blonde. Yeah, pretty shocking. Look at that wood grain. Sometimes I wonder, why would they put a blonde finish on here? But you know, just the style of things. That was the way it was back in that time. And it's patinaed over the years, so probably changed the color to this. Didn't start out this way. And I put cardboard down. I have epoxy floors. The lacquer thinner doesn't seem to do much to my floors, but I have these sitting on a big cardboard box just in case. But look at it just dissolve. I could be sanding here for hours and then potentially doing some damage to these, but this is just within minutes. And it evaporates so quickly because normally you put chemical stripper on here and then you scrape it off and you have to wait. You've got to wait for it to dry. I don't have to wait. By the time I got done with all these drawers, I just went directly to sanding. I didn't have to have any downtime in between the stripper coming off and drying. If you're getting to the conclusion that I'm impatient, you would be pretty accurate. So it's like when I have to sit and wait for things to dry, it makes me crazy. Okay, so that was directly from taking the finish off and then right to sanding. And look how fast this is sanding. That didn't take me any time at all. And again, I'm using 180 grit. Just wiping off the dust. And now I'm just going to go to town. So I've got 5 more of these drawers to do. Every inside, outside, upside down. Some of those drawers you can see are stained on the inside too. Okay, where I found that lacquer thinner didn't work the best was on areas like this. So had I been able to stand this dresser up on its end and use it there, probably would have been fantastic. But because it just runs down the side, the product is so thin, it didn't work great. However, when I put it on the surface, it sort of made the finish gummy, which then allowed my carbide scraper to grab it. I mean, I'm one-handed. If you've ever used a carbide scraper, one-handed usually does nothing, but it's just kind of gummy and it comes right off. And it doesn't even make that shrieking sound that the carbide scraper makes, like nails on a chalkboard, because it's kind of gummy. So again, I found another method. It's just amazing how many things you try, and some work, some don't work. But when you find the winning combinations, I'm usually finding the winning combination just about the time when I'm done. But thankfully, I'm finding the combination now on the first side, so when I do the other side, it's going to go even faster. Now, what I'm noticing as I'm sanding the edges, they're a completely different wood species, color, and everything. And it's going to take me a minute to develop, what I'm planning on doing with this dresser, because I didn't know that they were going to be completely different styles and colors of wood. That the veneer is like a darker walnut. And I'm not sure the wood on the, where the legs come up the side there. It almost looked oak, but the grain, it's not grainy enough. Maybe it's a maple. I'm not sure. So if you know what type of wood that is, leave it in the comments because I'd love to know. But again, lacquer thinner in the edges there because I have it laying on its back. I wiped it out and then went in with my contour sanding block and a net. Made quick work of that too. I was worried about that little section. I'm like, how am I going to get that out of there? I can't scrape it, but it worked fantastic. Okay, if you remember when I got it wet, everything turned orange. So I'm going to go in with a very light tan wash just to use it like a stain. It's going to be just to tone that orange down because again, I want to leave this natural. I went back and forth between, stain it, make it back to its original color, make it darker, make it lighter, and I decided I wanted to really make this a natural bare wood stain. So I thinned that. I was measuring it out. This is a 5:1, and this is a really light tan color. You can use any tan paint. Whatever your favorite tan paint is, use that as your wash. It doesn't have to be, Algonquin from Fusion Mineral Paints, super popular, but there's so many different tan paints you can use, and some of them have gray undertones, some have green undertones. You can just do whatever your favorite is. But what I'm doing is I've got a poly brush and I'm just applying it evenly to everything. I'm not going to let it sit very long, but again, mine's super watered down. And then I'm going to take a dust-free paper cloth, this paper towel, and I'm going to wipe it off. And I'm wiping off 90% of everything that I just put on there. But you have to keep wiping it because it's sometimes uneven as you start wiping it off. And then the more you wipe, the more even it gets. So you just keep on wiping. And then now the production line happens. So 9 drawers to do, and it will be wipe on, wipe off. And I usually start with a really diluted light color because you can always add more. But if you go in there with too much paint and now you've painted your dresser, it's much harder to take it off and start over rather than just starting light. And if you needed to, you could do a second coat. So I've got everything tan washed. Those are going to sit and dry. Time to do the actual dresser cabinet. It's so much easier if you can just lay things down and manipulate it this way than trying to do a tan wash with it sitting up. Okay, I did the end already, and now just the top. Same process. Wipe it on, wipe it off. See, the more you keep wiping, the more evened out it gets. So I let all of that dry. I was happy with the color, so I didn't do another coat. Again, it's just toning it down just to be a little bit beige instead of orange. And now I am top coating. So I was at the point where if I was going to stain it, I would have stained it right then. So after the tan wash, then stain it, and then top coat it. You can also top coat it and then stain it or glaze it. So there's a lot of different layers you can do to obtain the color that you want. I decided to go straight to top coat because I really was looking for that au naturel. I wanted it to be kind of a bare wood finish. And even though I've tan washed and everything, you can see the top coat is bringing out that wood grain and changing the color of it, but it didn't change it to orange. That's the thing I was trying to stop with the tan wash. So a good top coat on everything. It brightens it up. It makes the wood grain pop back out. And of course it protects everything because I hope this is used for many, many more years to come. It's already 70 years old. I'm sure it's got another 70 years in it, but this is just my first coat, and look at that wood grain. Isn't that beautiful? So I sanded everything and wiped it down again just to dust it, and here I am with more coats. I did this 4 times, 4 coats of top coat. While that last coat dries, time for drawer liners. 9 drawers. I measured everything carefully. I like to go in and just mark everything and cut them to size. You can just kind of put a whole bunch of it in the drawer and cut around the edges, but I feel like it wastes product, and I never get straight lines that way. So at least this way I know I'm getting straight lines. They're going to fit. I don't have to do much else to them. So I cut 6 of them. These 6 drawers are all exactly the same size. I'm dusting everything to make sure it's super clean, and I'm dry fitting it to make sure, yep, cut it to the right size. Pull off the backing. And then I like to have the manufacturer cut edge be the one in the front. So it helps to line up your pattern, but it also ensures that you have the straightest edge right in the front where you would see it, because nobody ever sees the very back. So that's the one that I cut, even though I cut straight lines, but that one in the front is the straightest. Now I have a little plastic putty knife, and I'm just seating everything down, and I'm getting out any air bubbles that might be in there. And this is assembly line fashion drawer liners. It's nice when they're all the same size. You can just knock them out. Okay, onto the long drawers. So had to, of course, measure again. Same process, dry fit it, put it in the drawer, clean it, seat it, scrape it, and there they are, all 9 drawers. Time to put some wood conditioner. So now that I sanded all those down, it made them look super dried out. And I want these to look beautiful because the wood grain on the side of the drawers is gorgeous too, and this makes the dovetails stand out beautifully. This is just such a well-made dresser. Who wants to hide all that wood? Not me. The blue tape on that one is just my wood logo. I have it glued there, and I have some tape on it holding it. One thing that I forgot to film, and I'll just tell you about it that I didn't show, was I went in and cleaned all of those drawer guides. Again, they're little carriages, and over the years they get dust and gunk in them. So I just cleaned them out, lubed them again, and then the drawers are going in. Now, sometimes with these, they're a little tricky to get back on. And this is one of the reasons I don't like to, once I take the drawers out to start my work, I kind of leave them out the whole time until I'm done, ready to put them back in. I don't want to be taking these drawers in and out, in and out. It wears out those guides. And here is that hardware. Isn't that cool? I just love it. Mid-century furniture has the most amazing hardware. So that cup just fits in there. I have the screw in the back and the knob goes in the front. And of course the center drawers don't even have hardware because they have got the wood rails. And that's how you open those. But these are super cool. I was so happy when I got these and like all the pieces are there. And here's those little risers. I'm putting them back on. Hopefully they'll last another 70 years before they melt into the dresser, but they do serve a purpose. They keep that glass from being stuck to the top of the dresser. And you can pick those up. I actually had some left over from some other glass that I had cut because the glass company hands them out like Tic Tacs. They just give you a whole handful of them, so I kept them. All right, I've got my glass back on and make sure everything is nice and clean. I cleaned the underside before I brought it over because of course I'll never see that again. So let's take a look back at where we started. Beautiful, but dated. And this is the new modern look. So against my floor, it does make it look a little bit different color than it does in person, but I'm kind of digging the two tones. I wasn't sure about it at first, and I thought maybe I should grab a walnut stain and stain those corners and make them all match, but I kind of like the two-tone. I don't know, what do you think? Leave me a comment and let me know if I should have stained that. Because I can always go back and stain it later, but that wood grain is just beautiful. I hope you like it as much as I do. And if you like these kind of makeovers, be sure to follow for more.